Well, let's get more analysis now on that situation inside Libya. I'm joined here in studio by Dr. Mustafa Ali, peace and conflict resolution expert. Thank you very much for joining us here on Africa Live. Now, it's been 3 years on. Libya is still very much stuck in a chaotic transition. What is the major problem?
The major problem was, first of all, was that there was no roadmap to engage the larger population in Libya in the event that Gaddafi would be taken off the scene. And the second problem, of course, was the lack of the state institutions. There was no any credible or strong state institution that Gaddafi had built for Libya. So when he exited the scene, there was really nothing to control or be some kind of authority overall to the Libyan people. Now, the vacuum created was filled in very quickly by the tribal militias. We'll
talk about the tribal militias in a moment, but Zyad Akil is joining us now from Cairo. Zyad, thank you very much. Now, that uprising in Libya happened almost the same time as the uprising in Egypt. What were the motivating factors? Are those factors still valid, though, in the Libyan case?
Well, definitely the same ruling regimes existed in the Arab world all over. It was basically, these regimes were a replica of each other, whether in Egypt, in Tunisia, or in Libya. So this was, of course, a main common factor. Definitely the uprisings that happened in Tunisia and Egypt before the Libyan revolution were a very powerful message to the Libyan people that they need to start perhaps revolting against the regime they had. Of course, definitely the nature of the state in Libya has been very much different than any other Arab state, and that's why the pattern of the revolution itself in Libya and the pattern of protesting in Libya was, again, very different than what happened in Egypt and in Tunisia. But definitely the same legacy of the political regime and the same amount of frustration and depression and political oppression that existed in the pre-2011 Arab regimes was the main motivating factor for these uprisings to happen.
All right, Dr. Mustafa, let's look at that vacuum created, as has been mentioned here, though. What would it take to return the country to normalcy? And first, is it possible now to return the country to normalcy?
There is no easy way to return the country to normal once the militias groups, which basically a patchwork of tribal militias with competing claims to the Libyan society, and it's taken them now 3 years to actually organize themselves in their small groups and in the regions. It will take them quite some time to actually demobilize, demilitarize, before they can actually have a national army or a national security authority take control of the entire country. But they have to demobilize, they have to demilitarize the militias in order for the national authority, a national army, to take full control, full security control of the entire country. Now, one thing that is so difficult is to actually demilitarize, demobilize the militias, which have been in existence for over 2 years now. To do this, they have to negotiate with the militia groups, their leaders themselves, and incorporate them into a sense or a semblance of a national army.
All right, Zyad, let's come to you, though, as an Egyptian, looking at what has happened in Libya 3 years on, looking at what happened to Egypt. Has it been worth it for the people there? Do you believe what the people of Libya and Egypt were clamoring for during the uprising has actually been realized?
Well, definitely it's a very different situation, both in Egypt and in Libya. But the irony is that in both situations, no, the demands of the uprisings have not been realized. If we look at the case in Egypt, for example, and the main demands were freedom, human dignity, and democracy. These things in Egypt are still very much in the making. They are still very much not realized yet. We just keep moving from one transitional phase to another. And the same thing is in Libya. The Libyans as well were also fighting for liberty, we're also fighting for more democracy, and we're also fighting for more transparency. Again, they are not quite there yet. However, the situation in Egypt and Libya is very different because basically they did not realize their demands because of opposite factors. In Egypt, simply the deep state, the state is very powerful that it could not be dismantled in order for people to realize their demands. And in Libya, as soon as the patriarchal rule of Muammar al-Gaddafi was over, all the attempts to resurrect the state, all the attempts to actually build an institutional state have failed so far. And this is the challenge that Libya faces. So for very different reasons, the demands of the people in both January 25th and February 17th revolutions have not yet been realized.
All right. Dr. Mustafa, the demands of the people have not yet been realized. Libya was once one of Africa's strongest states. Can it return there?
Libya returning to its, strong state is contingent upon how fast the militias are actually reined in, or they agree to lay down their weapons. It is possible that Libya will go back to where it was. It used to export up to 1.6 million barrels of oil every day. Today it's at a paltry 200,000 barrels of oil per day. It's very possible to go back to where it was. It is very possible to have a strong Libya that was very active on the African continent, supporting the African Union. But it can only do so if it has a centralized government that is functioning centrally, and that the people of Libya are participating and have a legitimate representation within the government.
All right, Dr. Mustafa Ali, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us here on Africa Live, and Akil Zyad from Cairo in Egypt. Thank you.